Our community plan has come out of quite a few years of working together as a community. It started off as a very informal group, just some of the organisations that wanted to work together to do something in the community and bring about maybe a bit more community spirit. So after a few years of doing a few special events, we were talking one evening and one of the parish councillors said, well, why not do a proper community plan? And so we thought this was quite a good idea. We floated it with the village and we got 70 people turn up, which was a fantastic turnout.
Yeah, I was one of the people that turned up to that meeting, having seen a poster in the village shop, and after hearing what was said about a community-led plan, I decided to join so that I could actually do something about the things in the village to make it a better place to live, because I'd lived here as a teenager, there'd been very little to do. I came back with my teenage daughter and it was like, there's still very little for her to do, so let's do something instead of complaining.
Yeah. I think that was a key thing, wasn't it, that so many different people in the village got involved, because we got a whole new group of volunteers.
Definitely. And then when we went to the actual stage of forming the committee, it was a mix of new, the existing, and we had a mix of ages. We did, and I think that was what made it work so well. And I think the idea of the steering group, I think, is really key. The relationships there and the sheer amount of work. I mean, the hours that people have put in. It's not something that you should take on lightly, I think. Definitely not a light decision to make.
I'm not sure if any of us, when we started off, quite realised what it would take.
But we've also got the mix of skills as well. So there's some organisers, there's some doers, and between us all, it's proved that we've got quite a good working committee there.
Mm. And I mean, it took us a few meetings to get going, but then we had these consultation meetings. I mean, that was something that helped us form the plan to start, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And again, we held them all over the village so we could get various different people and groups to come and attend, and they were well attended, I think, in the majority. And the feedback we got, everybody had something to say. Nobody came away and went away having said nothing.
And one of the first things we had to decide was what was the boundaries of the survey. And although there's one main village, and Kirkheaton's, it's right on the edge of Huddersfield, but it's semi-rural, semi-urban. It's got that sort of interesting mix. But there's a number of smaller hamlets round it as well. And so we drew the boundaries for what we thought would work. And one of the interesting things was that actually part of that community, when we did the plan, said, well, actually they looked to a separate next door village, definitely. A separate place. So that was something that we learnt as we went along.
Yeah, and I mean, Kirkheaton as a main village seems to have turned into a commuter village, because we're right on the edge of the M62 for people to get to Manchester, Leeds, Bradford, and the community spirit is not the same as when we had the big mills in the village supporting the engineering that was in the village, to where all the workers lived in the village. It's now a very diverse community that we've got.
And I think that was one of the exciting things about the diversity of the community, some of the skills that we found in the volunteers, because we found something like 130 or so volunteers. And I think, to me, one of the important things, well, as the questions of the plan, we allowed people to respond to it. We allowed them to put their names if they were interested in joining up.
Yeah, and we got quite a few volunteers out of that, certainly from the pre-launch events that we had, and we had a volunteer recruitment to see what sort of interest we could get in the working groups that we wanted to form. And I think that was an exciting moment for us as well, when we realised we got the people to back up what ideas had come out of the questionnaire.
That's right, there were people who were happy to take on all sorts of different projects, weren't there? Some with the Good Neighbour scheme, which is one of the things we're looking at. Some people wanted to look at allotment, some people wanted to look at energy, some people wanted to look at traffic and potholes, you know, but and all of those things have begun to become part of the plan.
Yeah, and I think most of the issues in the village have been identified. They're in the plan, and we can now work our way through them. And we're at the stage where we've begun to get a few successes. Smaller things, but things are beginning to move on. We're still in the very early stages, I think we should say that. We only launched in January. The launch was amazing. That was a fantastic night. After all the planning that we put into it, to have so many people attend, I mean, we reckon there must have been about 200 people in that village hall. And I think everyone was wowed by how far we come, the commitment that was shown, and to top it all off with fireworks.
That's right.
That was a fantastic.
It was a
and
good
afterwards,
start.
the feedback, the comments that we got about that event, and they wanted more events in the village where the community could come together and just have a bit of a social.
And we used that to actually showcase some of the things in the village, didn't we? We had the young people service there, we had the churches there, we had the rugby team there, obviously it was in the school, lots of different things were there. So people
we were
took
well
that
supported by the community groups we've got, that some people weren't even aware we had, like embroiderers association in the village. I mean, it really was. And we, again, you've got the mix of the children through to the elderly had all come out on a cold winter's night and supported us launching the plan. And I think that spurred everybody on as well after 2 years hard work, where you were seeing very little results really, because you were just going towards your goal. To then see it launched and get that support then. And then, of course, since then, they turned to us as a community group when we got a problem with the buses.
Well, I think that was a really good example, that within a few months of us doing the launch, they threatened to take the evening bus service off in the village, in the community, the only bus service we had. And a couple of people who used the bus service came to us to try and put things together. And we managed to, again, get a lot of people together.
Emergency meeting, get the examiner, get a photo shoot and start a campaign, and they listened to us.
Yeah, within a few weeks we'd had a meeting with the people from the bus authority, and they changed their minds and they promised to work with us.
And the local councillors backed us as well in what we were doing, which really showed that we had got some support from the official authorities, and it's not just us trying to do it on our own.
No, and I
think the support of the council has been fantastic. Yeah,
I think that's right. We couldn't have worked with this without the local councillors, both parish councillors and ward councillors. As you said, Teresa, they're coming to us now because we've got a big project, possibility of developing a community cafe and volunteers to run the library, putting those two things together. So we're in the early stages of that, but I think we've got the momentum and the contacts to really begin to work on that.
Yeah, and it's being recognised as a community group. I think that is definitely one of the highs, and it does make it worthwhile. When you're a volunteer, you work full time and you put in spare hours into this, to actually get the acknowledgements from the recognised authorities, it does make it worthwhile.